One of the rare privileges that became available during this wonderful weekend in Cairns was the opportunity to sit down with a person who's been capped 227 times for his country, been selected for 5 Olympiads, won a silver medal as a player, won 2 gold medals as coach of the Hockey Roos. Of course, I'm talking about Dr. Richard Charlesworth, AM. Welcome to Hockey Zone. Rick, with the many things you've achieved in your life to date, what would you say motivates you?
Oh, I think I'm lucky that I'm doing something I really enjoy. I love. I think in the end, whatever you do, you want to do it well, and I think that's my. I'd like to feel like I'd made a difference and that I'd done things as well as I could, and so that's what pushes you. But I'm lucky. I'm doing something that I really love doing. I enjoy the environment of sport. I enjoy working with young people who are motivated, hardworking, want to do well, have high aspirations. That's a good environment in which to work.
Let's go back to when you were a young person. What first brought you to picking up a hockey stick?
Oh, accident, I suppose, as much as anything else. But yeah, I went to a primary school in Western Australia in the late 50s, early 60s, where there was hockey played. Only because we had a teacher who was interested and involved, and he showed us hockey. I played footy and I played all the other games, but hockey was also available. My elder brother had played, so I borrowed his stick. I still have that hockey stick. My first hockey stick ever is it's not very wide because it's been worn so much, but and I got to play in the school team. We had no other teams to play against because primary school hockey wasn't around then. There was no Minky or any of that sort of stuff happening, and so I got to play in the school team. We used to play against the girls' private schools who played hockey, PLC, MLC, St Hilda's, such as they were in Perth at that time, and they of course had the most perfect hockey fields you could imagine, and for primary school boys playing against teenage girls was a really good balance, and so we played titanic struggles. We had about 20 fixtures a year, and from the age from grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I was in the school team and played in those games, and that's where it started. Then I joined a club and went on from there. When I was in my final year at primary school, I joined the club, but I was still playing football, and I love sport. And that was the environment which I was lucky, I suppose, to be in. But it was quite unique in those times because hockey certainly wasn't a core sport, nor was it played at primary schools.
You referenced you played football as a young person. I mean, my perception of a footballer and coming from Western Australia is that you may well have been a Barry Cable type of footballer. How would you describe your football ability?
Well, I won the fairest and best in my team, and I played in the sort of under-14 competition. I was in the district team for our area, and I loved footy. I remember being likened to Jack Sheedy, who was the rover before Barry Cable, if you like. Yeah, I was a little rover in the team, but I mean, in my school team, the first ruckman was Graham Moss, who went on to win a Brownlow medal for Essendon, and Craig Sargent was playing also. So we had, a range of people who succeeded in different sports. But yeah, it was. I love footy. It was a good game, but I could never understand why we all had to stand on the field in particular positions. I didn't understand why we couldn't all get behind the ball and run forward, much as what they're doing now. It took footy a long time to figure that out.
If I was to go back to those days, is the Ric Charlesworth I'd see playing junior hockey or junior football, would I see somebody who was driving their teammates to be better, to improve, which is the reputation you have now, to drive people to achieve the best they can?
Not so. It's a different role. I just loved to play, and I wanted our team to do well, and part of that was, having the people around you do well too, and so that was the environment. But the role of the coach is a different one. It's a different thing. I mean, I wish I could still play. That was much more fun in some ways than being a coach. The coach is really about trying to get the whole team to play cooperatively together and to lift the standard of each of them. And so the role is a different one. Playing is a more selfish, more self-centred sort of involvement, I think.
Well, when did you first become aware that you had a passion to be the best you could be and to help others be the best they could be? When was that first become a sense to you?
Well, I think I was competitive by, you know, maybe I was competitive by nature, maybe that's how it was. I mean, when I played with my brothers or my friends in the school oval, you always wanted to do well at what you did, whether it was 100 metres or it was playing, you know, fun games, brandy or whatever it was in the playground, or you were actually competing against other schools or make-up matches, whatever it is. Yeah, I just always wanted, that was part of the deal. I find that in the kids I see playing now, my sons are exactly the same. They compete vigorously against each other, and that's part of the human condition, I think. You know, some people perhaps have it more than others, but in every way we want to better ourselves perhaps, and certainly for me the sporting field was one of the areas in which I gave expression to that.
Ron Barassi is always or often spoken about that the world is full of athletes with unfulfilled potential and his frustration. I'm guessing you share a similar frustration of people who fail to realise their potential?
Yeah, I think that's very true. You know, I look at my career myself and I think, you know, as a hockey player, yeah, there's more I could have done, and in some ways I don't feel, you know, frustrated about that. You can't have those moments back, but when I look at it, I think I wish, you know, the opportunities that are available now had been available to me, and certainly as a cricketer, the same thing. I never really gave it the opportunity to develop as it might have. When I look at the athletes that I coach, then I don't think most of them realise how good they can be, and my role as the coach, one of my principal roles is to try and help them realise their potential, to keep lifting the bar and hopefully help them to be as good as they can possibly be. Few people ever get there, I suppose. I mean, and you look at some of the brilliant players around, you think, well, God, could they be better? I think they could. I don't think there's anybody in our team who hasn't got more that they can do. And in the end, they have to have the drive, the inclination, the willingness to realise their, you know, if you like, core potential and to expand it as much as they can.
Rick, how old were you when you made your senior debut for the Western Australian hockey team?
I think I was, it was 1970, so I would have been 18 years old, and I had been around there for a while. When I was still at school, I was picked in a team to go and play in Malaysia. My parents wouldn't let me go because it was during the school year and I had my final year matriculation, and so I wasn't able to go. I was very disappointed by that. So I didn't play until the next year when I was 18. But that was back in 1970. My first game was against Japan. Played on the West Australian Cricket Association ground, the Wacker. So your first game for Western Australia was actually an international game? Yeah, it was played against Japan, and obviously it doesn't count as an international, but earlier in the year I didn't get selected in the team to play in the national championships. I was one of the reserves, but later in the year I was selected to play for WA against Japan. That was my first game, and they were touring in Australia then.
So that was 1970, and your international debut, your debut for the Australian team?
That came in 1972, and I played my first game for Australia in Whangarei against New Zealand. I can't remember, probably May it was, and we played the 3-test series against New Zealand. On our way, that were the only internationals I played before I went to the Olympics. You know, the Olympic team had been selected in January. We played in May, played a national championships in Sydney, and then we were off to the Olympics. So I had 3 internationals under my belt when we went to the Olympics. Wouldn't happen these days.
Rick, the Western Australian hockey scene was full of Australian stars. I'm thinking people like Brian Greencross, Don Smart, the Pearce brothers. Did they influence your hockey career in those early days?
Oh, I think everybody in Western Australia came into contact with them, and the coach at the time was Merv Adams. And Merv Adams made a policy of including young players like myself in practice matches and inviting us down to training. And so I got to play against those people a lot, and of course I played against them in the club competition. And in my club team, my first senior match, I replaced Ian Dick, who was the captain of the Australian team in 1956 in the Olympics. So he got an injury, and I came in to replace him. And then of course Robert Andrew, who went to Munich in the same team that I was in my club team.
Nowadays, the players receive an email to advise them that they've been selected for Australia, for the Olympic team. How did you find out?
It was a bizarre circumstance, my finding out. I had no idea that I was even in contention, so that was pretty strange. I mean, I went to the National Championships in 1971, played okay, but they picked a team to go off to Barcelona for the World Cup. I wasn't in that, I didn't really expect to be, but I had a very good season domestically, and I played in the under-21 championships and played very well. And I remember that Arthur Sturgis, the national coach, was at the under-21 championships, you know, so maybe he was observing us. But then summer came, and I was playing cricket at domestic, in the domestic competition in Perth. I was at Scarborough, and we were in the field. I was playing for the university, and Brian Glencross came to the boundary and informed me that I'd been selected. I was fielding, and he informed me I'd been selected in the Olympic team. I could not believe it. It was like an incredible thing. I didn't even think I was like in contention. And so it was a surprise to me as much as anybody else. And I remember I just floated for the rest of the day. You know, I think we bowled the other team out, and I had to go in and bat, and I couldn't concentrate. And I drove home. You know, I told my parents it was a dream.
Now, also at this stage, so you're 20 years of age.
Then we got a letter, of course. Sorry, you know, that confirmed it, but it was announced in the media. But it was amazing.
So you're 20 years of age. You've just been selected to go to the Olympic Games. Am I right in saying you'd already commenced your medical studies?
Oh yeah, I was on my 3rd year, and I was well, it was early in the year, so I was only 19 when the selection was made. But yeah, I was going into 3rd year medicine, which was a big year. We had lots of exams. 2nd and 3rd year we got examined in physiology, anatomy, biochemistry, and neuroanatomy. It was a big year. You know, there was lots of exams at the end of it, so it was a pretty daunting prospect. And of course, I think we went away for 6 weeks for the Olympics. We were in Munich for 3 weeks before the games started at a training camp. We didn't play. We played some practice matches, but not many internationals. We played against some clubs and things, but it was really, quite a big chunk of the year.
So for a 20-year-old from Western Australia, walking into the Olympic Village for the first time, describe that for us.
Oh, it was all new and fresh as the first time. The first time I went overseas was to go to New Zealand for the matches in May, and then I was on my way to Europe later on in the year. It was, as I said, it was just a dream, completely new, exciting. Playing in a new team with a new group of people at the highest level. I think it's exciting to go to the Olympics for anybody, but being so fresh and new to it, it was a real eye-opener.
Yeah, of course, those Olympics, Munich Olympics 72, were remembered for all the wrong reasons. As a 20-year-old in the village that night when the terrorist attack occurred, Were you aware of what had happened as it happened?
No, we weren't aware. The contrast, I think, is the interesting thing, though, because the Munich games were superbly organised. The facilities were fantastic. The village was walking distance from the hockey fields. The hockey fields were the best hockey pitches you ever saw in your life. They were perfect flat fields, fantastic. We got to train on them. We were there for 3 weeks before the game started. It was a halcyon time. The weather was fantastic. And it was an interesting, exciting place. And you know, I'd studied German at school. I felt like I was like having a completely German experience, you know. And the game started, and we were playing matches. And then, yeah, the horrific events occurred that shocked the world, that changed the whole thing. Every Olympic Games since then, every day since then, there's guards along the fence with submachine guns and barbed wire, but before that it was very laissez-faire. We went to breakfast on the morning after that incident occurred, and we could see soldiers with guns in tracksuits climbing over the buildings. We thought, this is very strange. We didn't know they were soldiers. We thought, what's going on here, you know? And to walk to the dining room from where we were was unencumbered, but the other side was where the trouble had occurred. And indeed, the New Zealanders, for instance, were right next door to the Israelis, and so they were locked in there all day, locked in their quarters. They couldn't get out. And so, yeah, it wasn't until we went back after breakfast to our rooms and turned on the Armed Forces radio that we heard what had happened. And then, of course, the incidents of the day unfolded. The games were, there was a memorial service, there was the big speculation about whether the games would continue, and all of that was happening, you know, helicopters buzzing overhead, and of course from then on security was tight as it could be.
From an athlete's point of view, were you sitting there and your teammates sitting there saying, you know, I hope this game goes on, or were you thinking?
I think everybody had mixed feelings. Some people felt like, well, we should stop. Some people wanted to continue. You know, it was a terrible experience. I mean, for us, we were only spectators, I suppose. You know, those athletes who were involved, it must have been just horrific. But I suppose there was a view that you shouldn't let the terrorists win, and you know, the announcement was made at that memorial service in the main stadium that the games would go on. And I think our schedule had to be changed and there had to be adjustments made, but things continued, and I'm sure that was the right thing to do, but there were obviously people who were very shaken by it.
And the performance of the Australian team in '72?
Well, we finished fifth. We played the last game against Netherlands. We had to win. Whoever won that game was going to be in the semi-finals, and we lost 3-2 to the Netherlands. They had 3 corners and they hit them all in. I think we lost to India, we lost to the Netherlands, we won most of the other games in our pool. We had a draw, and so we were then in the 5, 6, 7, 8 playoff, and we won our 2 matches, and so we finished fifth. We beat Malaysia and GB. Yeah, we didn't make the semi-finals. I think that was a disappointment, but probably, I mean, we lost a couple of players just before, and there were 1 or 2 not selected. That probably just took the edge off the team. I think the team was ageing. They'd done very well in Mexico, but you know, there would have been half a dozen players who were 30 or more, and I think probably just, you know, the team wasn't refreshed and renewed as it might have been. That would be my spin on it when I look back. I think there were 2 critical selections. Trevor Smith, I thought, probably warranted selection, and if Julian Pearce had continued to play, that would have really added a gloss to our team, but those things didn't happen. And I was selected as right wing, but I ended up playing inside right because Des Piper was then playing left half, and the whole team got shifted around during the tournament, and I think that probably we didn't quite quite have the we didn't quite play well enough, I think, but we didn't quite have what might have been the better combination.
I'm guessing that you would have, having gone through the Olympic Games experience, you would have analysed your own performance. What sort of things would you what sort of things do you encourage your athletes or athletes in any sport to how to go about assessing their own personal performance in a competition?
Well, the world's dramatically different now. I mean, we never saw video of ourselves play, you know. I got some Super 8 footage from those Olympic Games of some of the matches, none of our team playing because I was playing, but so you never had the capacity to be as analytical as you could be. And a lot of it was about anecdote and this is what we remember happening, and I think this occurred and that occurred. We would try and reconstruct things. I think that's a very important skill for players to have, but it's lost a little bit because now we just go and look at the video and you can see what actually did happen, and sometimes our recollections aren't so accurate. So there wasn't the same capacity. But I remember Arthur Sturgis as a coach, you know, he was counting things and keeping numbers for our team way back then, and I think that was an important consideration. It was the start of starting to statistically look at what happened. And but without video, it's not a perfect art. I think now it can be, you know, you can really have accuracy about how you analyse and look at what happens in games. I mean, for me, I played in all 9 matches, or I don't know, 7 might have been. I thought it was 9, but it might have been 7 matches. Or I played in all the games, and I got promoted from right wing to inside right, and so in the end I was playing there. I hit 3 or 4 goals, and so for me it was the start of me starting to feel like I belonged there. And of course, with such an ageing team and me being one of the youngest there, then it seemed like, yeah, there's a bright future ahead. You know, as this team changes, there's going to be a role for you.
Well, 1972, you started the year playing club cricket, thinking there may be some future in hockey down the track. You've been selected for the Olympics, surprisingly. Then you get back from the Olympics, and if my timing is correct, you not long after made your Shield debut for Western Australia.
Yeah, well, I got back from the Olympics. I deferred my exams, which were due sort of October, thinking that I would have time to study and the cricket season started. I started playing cricket, and then I got selected for Western Australia, and we went on tour for a month, the Eastern States, and so I was all of December away, and my exams were in January. So I had a very difficult time getting through my 3rd year medicine with all of that. But yeah, I suppose I was a bit surprised to get selected for Western Australia, but I'd started to be a prolific scorer in the club competition domestically, and I was starting to have a good season, and that came along. So yeah, it was an incredible year, really, in terms of the accelerated activity in sport.
How would you describe yourself as a batsman?
I think I was a doer opening batsman for Western Australia, but I opened the batting during the 70s for Western Australia with everybody who opened the batting for Australia from WA. You know, I had Graham Watson, Wally Edwards, Jeff Marsh, Bruce Laird and Graham Wood as my opening partners. So during that period of time, and I mean, cricket was something I did in the summer, and I wasn't playing hockey. And in those times it was possible, but it was increasingly becoming difficult because a lot of the guys who were playing cricket went to England to play in the winter, and obviously there was cricket training during the winter, and hockey started to be played over the summer months, and so I think that was the beginning of a time where it was becoming more and more difficult to combine the two things.
Notwithstanding, you played in 3 winning Sheffield Shield teams?
Yeah. During that time, we won the Sheffield Shield 3 times. Western Australia had a fantastic team. You know, there were 6 players in the Test team at one stage, and so, you know, it wasn't easy to get in the WA team. And we had a very successful team, and of course Dennis Lilly was leading our attack, and Terry Alderman and Bob Massey and Mick Malone. There were a whole range of people who bowled for Australia, and of course we had We had a very good batsman, and it was, I mean, Rod Marsh was the captain, John Inverity was the captain for a while. We had people who were substantial leaders. It was a good environment in which to learn and be involved.
Now, there were reports mid to late 70s that you were close to Australian selection. Did you ever perceive that you were?
Oh yeah, the media were picking me in the team to go to the West Indies in 1978, and indeed at the beginning of the season, I'd had a good season before. I was one of those players who was a chance, and Graham Wood and I were opening the batting. World Series cricket had come along, so that made it easier. Graham Wood and I were opening the batting for Western Australia, and we went on tour early in the year, and if I had done well, I might have made the team. I thought I was a bit unlucky. I got run out once, so I got...
Not that he was Graham Wood, surely?
Yes. I remember at the Sydney Cricket Ground we were playing against New South Wales, and it was a very hot day, and the track was flat. And Andy Roberts was opening the bowling for New South Wales, so it was a substantial opening attack, but he injured himself after about 4 overs and walked off the field, and you're thinking, oh my, this is looking better and better. And Woody pushed one into the covers, and I think I got about halfway before Peter Toohey threw down the wicket. And we made 500, and I was run out for 15 or something, And and then in the second innings, we had to bat to save the game, and I made 60, but I batted for a long time. And then I think in Brisbane, I went to hook a ball, and the ball hit me in the head, and my helmet fell off onto the wicket. So
I actually think I've seen that photo.
So it was, I made 30 and 50 or something, but Graham made 100 and more runs, and he was a better cricketer than I was, and he got in the team, and I think Turner from New South Wales played, or someone like that, and so it wasn't Turner, it was Dyson. and so yeah, I didn't get selected, but I don't think I ever played well enough to really warrant selection.
Talk to me
and
about...
of course then I didn't play anymore. I was only 26 when I stopped playing, so maybe.
Talk to me about the difference, if there are differences, in the mental preparation to prepare for an international hockey game versus going out to open the batting against the likes of Andy Roberts.
Oh, I mean, I think that it's the same thing. You need to be relaxed, but you're alert and ready for what you have to do. The preparation's been done, and you have to trust yourself. And that's the same thing that we would expect of our players. A lot of the preparation occurs day after day after day at training. I mean, when we get in the plane and fly to London, most of what we have to do to prepare is behind us, and it's really fine polishing that occurs that in any particular game or day that you're then on about.
I looked up your bowling record, and I put it to you that you were under bowled.
1 over, I think, none for 2, or something like that. Yeah, I was thrown the ball one day in Brisbane by John Inverity, when the game was over, and that's my bowling record. Yeah, I was not very good at bowling. I mean, at junior level I did okay, but no, I didn't.
So a left arm Chinaman, or?
No, I bowled off breaks.